Dreams. We're all born with them. Dreams of adventure, of finding a sense of purpose, meaning, of reaching our full potential. And wherever your dreams take you, your journey starts with UAC.
I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging.
Hello and welcome to Let's Chat. Today we're here to talk with our university panellists about studying law. Our panellists today come from a variety of different universities, but I'm going to switch to them and I'm going to ask them to tell us who they are, where they're from, and of course, where they're located. And we'll start with the University of Sydney.
Thanks, Trudy. My name's Simon Bronnett. I'm the Dean of Sydney Law School, and I am located in Camperdown at our campus there in the New Law Building on Gadigal land.
Thank you very much, Simon. Ryan from UOW.
Thanks, Trudy. So my name's Dr. Ryan Kernaghan. I'm the first year coordinator from the law school at the University of Wollongong. Our campuses are currently spread across 3 locations. So our main campus is in Wollongong, our second campus in Liverpool, which services the southwestern Sydney region, and also we have a cohort that has just begun in Sydney CBD.
Oh, lovely. Sydney CBD. Wow. Okay. And we'll go across to UNSW.
Hi, Trudy. Thanks for having me today. My name's Hannah. I work for the Future Students team here at UNSW Law. We're located, of course, at our Kensington campus, which is in the eastern suburbs of Sydney. I'm actually coming to you today from our law school, so sitting in our purpose-built, lovely law school here at UNSW.
Fantastic. And we did have another panellist. I'm sorry they've dropped out for the moment, so hopefully they may join us. But that person is Dr. Andrew Burke from Macquarie, so hopefully we'll see him again through the presentation today. First of all, I want to just have a bit of a chat about what is law. Simon, can you tell us a bit about what law is? Because it's different things to different people, I would expect.
Sure. Well, thank you for the question. Probably one of the most complex questions, and you'd think as an academic, as I am, who've been thinking about this question for 30 more years, you'd come up with a snappy answer. I suppose I'd start by saying law is a system of rules. It's an instrument of justice and sometimes injustice. And I think in this day and age where we think of Black Lives Matters and a lot of the issues around Me Too, we see the law, and on my field is criminal law, not delivering justice to victims and communities. Law is also a discipline, and in the sense it's a discipline of knowledge. It's a body of knowledge that you acquire expertise in, that allows you to apply a trade in the sense of being a solicitor or a barrister, or even in due course perhaps a judge. But there are many ways in which you can apply your discipline knowledge that you acquire through your law degree. I also think law at the highest level embodies a set of values. We see the Prime Minister talking a lot about the importance of respecting the rule of law. And I think, what do we mean by that? And I think it's the set of values, the ideas, the principles that set out to ensure that systems of power are rendered accountable, and that we use those systems of law and justice to prevent abuses of power, whether those abuses occur in public organizations, from government, the police, or in private sectors, as in industry, big corporations. So that in essence is the law. I have to say I have been living the law now since 1985, when I started studying the law in the UK. And that question continues to be one that I ask every day. What are we trying to achieve through law? What does justice look like? So it's not static, it's dynamic. And as my book, which I've put the title cover there, Law in Context, says, there are so many different dimensions to law. You know, it has a social dimension, an economic dimension, a political dimension. A law degree is so much more than just learning the rules.
Which I think is a really great message to students, because, you know, like any degree at university, students really don't know what kind of content or what sort of context there is, you know, because they know one thing. They don't know that there's so many different elements to units of study that you might do at uni. So yeah, I really thank you for that. It's a really good, you know, really good understanding. I'm going to go across to Ryan now. Ryan, students who are thinking about taking on law when they finish school, and I'm probably typically talking at the moment about year 10 students, so those parents and students that are listening to us now that are from that sort of demographic. Students in year 10 selecting subjects for senior school, what would you suggest to them to take on that's going to maybe help them with their studies later on?
Thanks, Trudy. Certainly what our message tends to be is that we would encourage people to think very clearly about English. That is certainly a really good starting point. So typically that is any 2 units of English, but we really do recommend advanced English if that's possible. But another thing that comes up, I think, for many of us, and I'm sure I'm not the only one on the panel that encounters this, is that many of our students, and certainly ones coming into their first year of studies, will often be thinking, oh, I haven't done legal studies, and what a disaster. It's absolutely not a disaster. So I really do want to encourage people not to feel, if they've made particular choices and there's other, for example, very strong humanities subjects that they have an interest in, such as history, business studies, etc., those can sometimes be just as, if not more helpful in terms of a grounding in humanities. And what we often find is that, you know, and in fact, almost always the case, that is not a disadvantage. Of course, if you are interested in legal studies, that's fine. But we do approach it from an assumption that everyone comes in with the same starting knowledge. And so the writing, the humanities background's quite helpful for that. And that's why we really mainly focus on English.
And so maths is not a real thing, you know, if students, you know, decide, oh, I don't want to do maths, that's not going to hold them back if they don't?
No, not in my experience. I actually, coming from somebody who didn't actually do year 11 and 12 mathematics. So I managed to do okay out of that. And also, but having said that, I don't want to discourage people who have a variety of interests. And I think it's important to acknowledge, and I think this comes back a little bit to what Simon was saying in relation to the definition of law, is that it is a much wider concept than what many approach it or think about when they're approaching it. We have people from so many different backgrounds that actually find their home in the law. And I think it's really important that if there are people that enjoy mathematics or enjoy some of those disciplines that maybe rely on logic and some of those other ideas, that's okay as well. And I've had many students that have actually come from those backgrounds. Yeah. But certainly, I guess the traditional focus is certainly in that humanities English area.
Yeah, good tips. We would always say, of course, here at UAC, a broad list of subjects in your senior year is going to set you up no matter which way you go, whether it be law or other courses. So, yeah, great tip. I'm going to go to you, Hannah. I'm going to talk about entry now. We know that the ATAR is a big part of entry, and typically we find that law has a fairly high lower selection rank. Why is that? Can you tell me or expand on what we sort of know about supply and demand and that type of thing?
Yeah, of course. Of course, and I was expecting the entry question because I think at UNSW we have some additional entry criteria that we really want to make sure our future students are aware about. So yeah, law does have quite a high lowest selection rank as opposed to some other degrees, and certainly as opposed to other humanities degrees. That's purely because the demand for law is so high, and in Australia we do have so many fantastic law schools that our domestic students are really interested in studying law, and we do get quite a lot of applications. And of course, one of the ways of being able to sort through those applications and offer places is by looking at an ATAR, which is why often you'll see law schools in Australia have a higher ATAR. One of the ways that we do look at our applications at UNSW that's a little bit different to other universities is through the Law Admissions Test, or the LAT. You might have heard of it before. I'm hoping if you are interested in studying law that you have heard of it. Now, the LAT actually combines with your ATAR to give us a really holistic understanding of who you are as a person and your ability to study the law in our degrees. So the LAT is a written test. It's held in September every year. You're able to sit it from year 11 and year 12. And we really look at your critical thinking, your problem solving skills. You actually don't have to have any law knowledge to do it. So if you are wanting to prepare for the LAT, you don't have to read cases or have to have done legal studies or anything like that. It is just your ability to answer the question that is in front of you and think critically about it. So at UNSW, your entry is actually your ATAR plus your LAT combined. Of course, those scores change every year based on our cohort of students. So if you are looking for those scores, please do head to our website because they will be there. We also hold a LAT information evening, which you can find on our website. If you haven't been able to attend it, you can watch the pre-recorded video as well.
Fantastic. Oh, that's really good to know about that LAT test, because that was going to be my next question. Is there additional selection criteria? And you've answered it all in one. It's, all of our, or a lot of our universities offer law, of course, but UNSW is unique in that sense that they do have the additional selection criteria. So please look out for that. Andrew, I'm going to go to you. So welcome back with us.
Thanks, Judy.
Can you just tell me, your students at Macquarie, when they're doing law, do they get some on the job or some work experience or whilst they're studying?
Yeah, good question. Apologies, my internet dropped out for a little while there, Trudy. Yes, we have at Macquarie what we call PACE, which stands for Professional and Community Engagement. Now, all law students have to do at least one PACE subject, one PACE unit in their law degree. And what happens with this PACE is that students go out into the workforce or into a law firm or a non-profit legal organisation like Legal Aid, for example, and get work experience across the semester. And it counts for credit. It's a unit that counts towards their law degree. So it's a great chance to get a bit of a taste of an area of law you think you might be interested in, to see what it's really like in practice, and also to start making some professional contacts and networks.
Oh, well, that sounds great, for students, because at the end of the day, they do want that experience, of course, to be graduate ready, as we talk about these days. Simon, at Sydney, do you have the same type of employment experience through their degree?
We certainly do. We have a whole range of experiential programs. Some are for credit, some are not for credit, some are organised by the school, others are organised by our very, very active student law society. And I have to say, and this is a really big difference, I think, from high school, is the students start taking responsibility pretty early in their career for engaging with the profession and exposing the cohort to the wide array of graduate employment opportunities. So they're inevitably towards the end of the degree, they become very focused on summer clerkships, and there's a high level of organisation around that. But in addition to that, there are lots of other internship opportunities. I have students who have been doing summer programs with the International Bar Association, with the World Bank, with International Criminal Court, the opportunity to go away in non-COVID times. I have to say, a lot of these programs have continued remotely. So we've had students who have been able to actually do these amazing programs from the comfort of their own bedrooms, which is fantastic. In normal times, they would be able to get opportunities to do those programs. We also have a service learning Indigenous communities program where really focusing on First Nations communities, Indigenous communities, where law students can go off and spend a semester working with community on a defined set of problems which have legal dimension under supervision. So I think most law schools now are very engaged in enriching in a clinical setting the law school experience. 30 years ago, 35 years ago, when I did my law degree, there were no such opportunities at all, other than perhaps doing a clerkship with a large city firm. Now you can do an amazing array of things in community-based centres. So you get the full range, law reform commissions. So again, you can have the opportunities to go off and spend a summer working in one of our local or national law reform commissions is a great opportunity.
Okay, so students would typically do these on a domestic basis, but can students doing law do like an international exchange program? Hannah, I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, of course. And like Simon mentioned, last year and this year have been a little bit different for our students that have been wanting to exchange, but a lot of the programs have carried on in a digital setting. Yeah. One of the things that we offer our students is a overseas elective opportunity. So students can actually select elective subjects from overseas universities, and they're universities that have a specialization in a certain area of the law. So it might be constitutional law, it could be heritage law, environmental law, based on the country that the student's going to go into. So there's certainly opportunities for those overseas electives. They are actually counted as a subject for students. So in doing a subject here at UNSW Law, they can go and do that subject at an overseas partner institution. One of the benefits of that is typically they still pay their UNSW fees. So if they were doing a subject at a US law school, for example, they would be paying UNSW fees for that, which is really helpful for students. Of course, there are exchange opportunities as well. So your typical one-year exchange, a lot of our law students actually take up that opportunity as well. And we also have short-term study tours as well, which I'm sure most universities in Australia do have now.
Yeah, I can imagine they do. Ryan, I'm going to go to you. Could you give or tell our audience a little about the different career opportunities that students can take on if they've studied law?
I was happy to. So one of the things that we really encourage as part of our, our approach to studying law at University of Wollongong is to acknowledge that there are a range of what we call traditional career paths in the law, but also an ever-expanding range of opportunities in other areas that we'd probably call non-traditional. So we have, we're particularly, I guess this really does tie into with the work experience part, because I think, and we probably all have programs that really try and connect with some of not just people in the region, but also graduates or former graduates, and some of the great opportunities they've actually explored both as a solicitor or a barrister, but also in some other areas. So we have people that have gone into the arts, into different education, government, non-government roles. We have people that are in-house counsel, perhaps for particular corporations, but also people that have actually played a role in making policy, a variety of different government roles, lots of different companies like Google, some of the, some of those, I guess, exciting new opportunities with different startups, etc. So we've got a range of that, and I think certainly something that we do actually put a big emphasis on is to ask our students not to, I guess to come in with an open mind about where this might take them, and that actually it could be that you don't feel particularly inclined to a traditional career as a solicitor or barrister, but that you find that the skills that you hone and develop during the course really help hold you in good stead for a range of different pathways. And that could even actually be outside of the law as well.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. When you say outside of the law, it really means any kind of sort of career path that they wish to take, that they would take those skills with them on, like
yes,
students doing a business degree, say for instance, who might not typically go into a corporate world, might go into some other type of smaller enterprise. They just take those skills one to the other.
Well, and in fact, we find some of our students, especially, we're very proud of some of our mature age students that have come in, and some of them have come in from different perspectives, but they will often have actually come to do law because it enriches a job that actually isn't law specific, but may still involve some compliance issues, that law grounding gives them a bit of an extra edge. Yeah, so I think that's, and I think it comes back a little bit to what Hannah was saying before too, in relation to critical thinking. I think that is such a big part of what we do in relation to skills development within the law degree. I think that's another thing that people should probably keep in mind, is that law degrees are not just about the content in particular areas of law. I mean, that's obviously key, but a big part of it is actually developing and enriching people's skills. And so that's a range of things like communication, critical thinking, I guess the ability to think outside of the box in many ways.
Talking skills, I would expect that students would have to be really good communicators if they want to do law, yeah?
Yeah, so one of the things, and I guess that ties in with one of the things that we would also mention in relation to the whole ATAR experience, is that we would always encourage at UOW our students not to worry too much in the sense of, if, the ATAR wasn't exactly what they had hoped. I mean, one of the things that we're very, I guess we work very hard on is our early admission program into law. And so when we do that assessment, that's based on students' current academic performance, even before they actually sit the HSC. And around the time of September, we have interviews. And so to get to the interview stage, obviously we do look at grades and things like that. But another thing we look at, and when we're interviewing, is we actually look at the person. We look at the skills development that they have reflected so far. So things like their academic readiness, motivation, passion, but also things like communication. Have they worked with people on solving a particular problem? We really want to see more than just the numbers, more than just the grade. What is it about these the students that they've developed in terms of other life skills, really, that can be really helpful?
And that's interesting to know that you actually offer law through that early entry program, because I know with some universities, they would not have that such high profile course in their early entry scheme. So that's one to look out for those students who are, really thinking, oh, am I worried about my ATAR, that type of thing. So that's really good information. Andrew, if you've got students who have applied for law, their ATAR is not going to get them in through the traditional pathway. No early entry, let's say there's no early entry for whatever reason. Can you tell me what kind of pathway should a student take? What other courses should they be looking at to put them on the right track to law?
Yeah, good question. And look, this is quite common, of course, that because the ATARs are relatively high, that students might fall a little short. Most of our students do a double degree. So they do law with another degree at the same time. My advice always is whatever other degree you might have done, simply enrol in that degree, and it's most likely going to have a lower ATAR, and do your best, work hard. At the end of first year, so after 1 year of full-time study, if you're marked at a certain level, you can simply transfer into law for the next year. No questions asked. You can transfer straight in. And I teach a first-year law subject. I don't know where people have come from. I don't know if they've come straight from school or if they've already been there for a year and transferred in. Everybody is the same. And because if you go on to do a combined degree, it will still take you the same amount of time in total. It will still take you say 5 years. You're just doing things in a slightly different order. So there's no great issue with that, provided that you're enrolled in something else that you like, obviously. Get stuck in, work hard, try and get good marks, and then that pathway is absolutely there.
Okay, so you're sort of saying that it doesn't really matter what other degree they may have taken on, they can still transfer over into law after the first year. That's
right, because at Macquarie you can combine a law degree with any other undergraduate degree the university offers, any combination at all. So the most popular is commerce. A lot of students also do arts. I did a science degree, but people do psychology. You can do medicine and law if you wish, though that sounds very difficult. So yes, enrol in your other degree of choice, work hard for a year, and if your marks are reasonable, and they don't have to be sky high, just reasonable, there's the opportunity there to transfer in, because what that tells us is that you can thrive in a university environment, right? You can do well, attending class, getting good marks, so we're willing then to give that person a go, even though they didn't get the ATAR in the first place.
And that's really good news for students who, maybe you're worried at this end of it, so the year 12 end of it. As we always say, your ATAR is just the first pathway into a degree. So once you're in, the whole world opens up for you. But Hannah, would you say at UNSW it's as easy as that as well?
Yeah, definitely. And that's a really good point. We often speak to students, usually around November or December, who have just decided that their calling is law and they really want to study at UNSW, which is fantastic. But often by that stage, they haven't had the chance to sit the LAT, which can be a little bit tricky because you do have to sit the LAT to get admission to UNSW law. So similar to Macquarie and I'm sure many other law schools across the country, at UNSW you study law as a double degree. So we would really recommend that students come into their second degree at UNSW. Again, a lot of the times our students are studying things like commerce, international relations. We have quite a few in politics, philosophy and economics as well, engineering. There's plenty of choices, but we would really recommend that students come into that degree and then at the end of their first year, they can, what we say, pick up law onto their degree as well.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Simon, I'm going to start with you. Could you tell our listeners or our viewers today, give them a couple of maybe some pointers or some tips on how they best prepare themselves and, what they should be thinking about if they really want to do law?
Thank you, Trudy. Look, I think, and I've taught students across ANU, UQ, Griffith, and now Sydney. And motivation is really key. Sometimes I feel people, and it is ridiculously high, the ATAR, and of course there are pathways in as outlined available at all institutions. If you enroll for a year in your other degree and you do well, you can transfer into combined degree. But I do see people enter at the age of 17, 18 in all the institutions I've taught with a very, very high ATAR, doing it because they did a high ATAR and they have absolutely no passion or interest in law. And they're it might be this fear that they don't want to waste their ATAR, they want to get a good job, a high-paying job, or there may even be family pressure. And all I would say is that the tips for success, the students who have come in often not with those high ATARs go on to get the university medals and do extremely well because they are passionate and they are dedicated and they are committed. And a university kind of shakes it all out a bit. And you know, there's no doubt there's a certain better position to get the high ATAR. In fact, there's a lot of strategic advice on what courses to do to optimize your ATAR. And what you should always do, and in my view, is you follow your passion. And if you follow your passion, you will do best. And you'll never have a day at work where you feel that you're not doing something that is just so fulfilling and rewarding. So that would be my advice to young people: is outlaw, and you really don't know, but you'd like to find out. Well, give it a go. If you don't like it, don't stick with it. Find something else to do.
And I think that's a really good tip, especially around that ATAR and that thought that some people have of, oh, I'm wasting my ATAR. I don't think we should ever think that way. It should always be about passion.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Hannah, I'm going to ask you the same question.
Yeah, I think that Simon has given a really great answer there. But the one thing that I would also add to it is that we would really encourage our students to get involved in their community and actually see the real implications of the law in the community. At university, you know, you learn about the law and you'll learn from fantastic academics, and you'll learn from well-written books, and you'll read cases. But you know, it's so important to be able to connect that to what's happening in your community and in the wider society as well. So I would really encourage students who are interested in coming to study law, and even students who to remember as they do start their studies in law and continue their studies in law, to just really have a pulse on what's happening in society and how the law impacts that.
Thank you. Andrew, some tips for our viewers.
Tips. Well, I always think in terms of the HSC and subjects, choose the subjects that you like. We're going back a bit before. Choose the ones you like and you're good at, and that will take you in the direction you want to go. Like Simon was saying, your career is long. You have to love it. You have to really enjoy what you do. Don't feel like you have to fit into a box or somebody else's expectations. Do what you like. Do what makes you happy. Do those subjects, and they'll take you in the right direction. But also that people often have a very narrow idea of what they can do with a law degree. I think Ryan touched on this before, because of, you know, they watch Suits on TV or other kind of cliche kind of things. The legal profession is vast, and there is a corner of it for every personality and skill set. You can be, I used to be a legal aid lawyer in court every single day arguing cases, or you can be a tax lawyer arguing, you know, doing deals for the big end of town and never set foot in a court. Or you could do divorces, or you could be an academic. There's just, it's so much opportunity in the law, and that's why it's a wonderful qualification that certainly people have an interest. I encourage them to look into it as much as they can.
Thank you very much for that. Ryan, same question. Brilliant tips.
First of all, can I just say the other panelists have just, that was fantastic. I mean, and I really would echo what they have said, but I suppose if I added something that might be just, I guess, really additional, it's really the same messages as what they have said. But I would say that also having those opportunities to, along with what Hannah said about reaching out in the community, having some, you know, even voluntary experience in different organisations, but also showing an ability to collaborate, to work together. I think that's something we should all need to remember as well, is that a lot of what it means to be a lawyer or what it means to work through law school is to actually be prepared to work together, that you're not actually siloed, you're not one person against the world, you actually work together with a group of people. And I think, and along with what Andrew said about the pop culture image, is that it's often this very strict adversarial perspective. But in reality, you can't really approach people just loud and fighting all the time. A lot of it is collaboration, it's working together, it's respecting other people's strengths as well, and also knowing when to say that you might not know something, you might need to actually consult with other people and work together with other people. It makes you a much more rounded individual, and also shows that you have an open mind. And I guess the other thing I would say as well is just being able to show some experience with planning and persistence. Certainly what I've always seen with students that are coming in, I've often asked them, what's been an experience where things didn't go as you'd planned? So I think that's something we want to encourage, is that you don't have to be perfect in every way. You know, there might be things that didn't go as you wanted, but the key is how you responded. If you've had a challenge, and how have you actually overcome that? Because that can often show sometimes the best information at all about you as a person in terms of how you respond. It's not that something went wrong, it's how you actually responded to that. So showing that experience where something like that's happened, but you've overcome that challenge, that's really great. And it shows the kinds of skills that we want to see with people who are studying the law. Because again, coming back to that very first question about what the law is, a lot of it is about when things go wrong, but how do we respond to that? And I think that's really key.
Fantastic. Well, as you can see today, we've got some really fantastic information from our panellists. They've talked about what the law is. We've talked a little about entry requirements. We've also discussed the different career paths that we see students, take once they've completed their degrees. I do want to thank you all for joining us today. If you have any questions, please drop us a line. Our panellists or our universities, of course, are there to help you on your journey to university, and, all ready to answer any further questions that you may have. I really want to thank Simon, Hannah, Andrew and Ryan for being with us today. I've really enjoyed listening to them, as I'm sure you have, and I hope that your journey to law is a smooth one. Thank you very much for joining us today.
UAC represents many institutions across New South Wales and the ACT. The universities featured in today's webinar are a small selection of the many institutions which offer the courses discussed today. Students should research all university offerings so they can make informed decisions regarding their future study.